I'll tell him exactly.
Is the back of my hair ridiculous?
Yeah, does my hair look bad?
Beautiful.
Jenna, I know that makes you laugh.
Oh, wait. You got it.
I knew good things about Frontier from this.
Good afternoon.
afternoon, guys, friends, teachers, families, parents. We're so glad you guys are all here, and all to you who are watching out on our YouTube Live. This is our first foray into something like this, so thank you, Mr. Fletcher, for helping us get that set up. We really are excited that some parents are out there getting to watch what we're doing, and this is, I think, our first official, formal, in-person-ish PTO meeting, and so we have PTO members that are going to call this to order later in the meeting. She'll be introducing Mr. Town, who will be here to talk to us about our bond issue. Those of you who are watching, feel free to ask questions. I think Mr. Fletcher posted those up there, so if you have questions out there for Mr. Town or the PTO board or myself, feel free to type in those questions and we will get those answered for you. All right, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Saucier, and she is going to lead and start our PTO general meeting for the first time this year.
Thank you. Hi. We're going to call this meeting to order. It is 1:08, and I will hand the mic over to Mr. Town, so he can go first.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it very much. Well, good afternoon. I think you'll be able to hear me through my mask. I could probably do it without a mic. This is, appreciate you being here. This is a very important bond election we're going to have this year. Some things are different though. Normally we would call the election in December, have it in February, and we just really weren't sure this year where we would be in February, where the state of COVID would be, or the state of finance in the school district and the state. So we were very cautious about this and very deliberate in sort of pushing it into the spring, some of the later days where we would have a little bit more information. We also normally would do a 2-year bond, but we thought still with uncertainty on property values and the economy, we thought it was just more prudent just to do a 1 year. That gives us a lot of flexibility moving forward. So this is what I call a meat and potatoes bond issue. There's nothing on it that really is huge or controversial. We're doing a lot of fix and repair. We're doing a lot of updating of some of our older buildings, enhancing some of our newer buildings with things like a marquee if they don't have one, or playground equipment for everyone, or furniture if it's not in good shape. So, a new school like Frontier has a lot of those advantages already built in, and now that you're fully built out, you guys get to rest for a while as far as heavy construction. We're about to finish over across the street at Heartland, which is amazing as fast as they've done that to get those classes in. And you always have to think on a bond issue, we always live in the moment, but we also need to look ahead. So things that have been voted on for Heartland or Santa Fe or other schools really do affect even kindergartners in the future. So we always have to look at everything in a bond issue just as the whole district and have that wide view. But so this year we're going to have the bond election on May 11th. It will be at your regular polling places, 7 to 7. And I always have to explain this, because some people say, I live in Oklahoma City, I can't vote, or I live in Logan County, I can't vote, or I live in unincorporated Oklahoma County. No, if your kids go to Edmond schools, there's probably a 99% chance that you're able to vote in this election. And we don't let a lot of people in. Oakdale gets to come in, and we've been recently letting teachers' kids come in. But if your taxes go to Edmond schools, no matter where you live, you get to vote, and it's at your normal place. So this year, it's a $65 million bond issue. They're always big numbers, but you have to remember, we're about a $2.3 billion school district as far as assessment. And that's at 11%. So we're around $24 or $25 billion worth of property in our school district. We continue to grow each year. That's one reason why we can do projects, increase our bond amount, but our taxes remain flat, and I can explain that a little bit more in a minute. Proposition 1 is our equipment, our renovations, our new additions. Proposition 2 always has to be transportation. It has to be a separate vote. Tax implications, we're still having that planned 24 to 25 mil. And you have to remember that a mil is 1/1000th of a dollar. So we do a really good job of anticipating what our property growth will be, and then what our interest rates are going to be to keep within that range. So we can't say specifically it's a no tax increase, but it will be very minuscule, but most of the time it goes down below 25. And this is the historic sinking fund, and this is where it just gets a little geeky. If you're accountants, you probably like this stuff. But you look to the side and you can see where we have been in my tenure. I was hired 21 years ago to sort of straighten out the bond program to get us where we needed to be and to supervise the construction. But this is what we've been dealing with, and it's gone from about $9 million a year to about $65 million a year, maintaining the same tax structure. So where are we with our peer school districts? Well, you can look up at the top that Newcastle, Deer Creek are up at the very maximum. Edmond's down at the bottom. Oklahoma City is lower. Oklahoma City was going to run a $700 or a $900 million bond issue this year, and they sort of got COVIDed out, I think. They got a little scared, so they decided not to. We really don't have that option. So the propositions, the first one is some additions to schools that are under construction right now. So we're building them, we aren't even in them yet, but we need to plan there's future additions that will be in 2 to 3 years. And that's at Redbud and Scissortail. Technology is very important, and it proved that this year. We were only 200 devices away from having a device for every student when this started last spring. So we quickly purchased those and then purchased some more later. So, 4th and 5th graders have duals. They have Chromebooks and they have iPads. We felt like that was the best thing for them, but we're going to have to do some replacement. Right now, we are expending $10,000 a month just on broken screens. So, yeah, and many of those are not insured. We have the insurance program, but it really is important. This is our phone system. This is our software, licensing, and then this year it's also going to be a replacement of copiers district-wide. So I need to explain something as well at this point. We've passed bond issues for 59 years in a row in the school district, since 1959. It's unmatched anywhere in the nation. It just goes to the level of support we've had. But this year, there's probably going to be a little bit, there could be a little bit of organized resistance. And I think, it goes back to that point that no one's happy this year. This side's not happy, this side's not happy. I kind of walk in the middle and I get hit by both. So you understand. But it's important for kids and for their learning. Not passing a bond issue doesn't hurt a board member, it doesn't hurt a superintendent, it hurts kids in the future, because without technology, a lot of this stuff shuts down. We're just not able to fund it every year. But $7,500,000 for 1 year, and that's a lot of devices that we're going to need to be replaced and update. School improvements in some of our old schools, as you can see, Ida Freeman, Sunset, Northern Hills. A lot of these schools were built in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, and they've got some updating that needs to be done in them. So they'll all get a little bit of different money for renovating this hall or updating this classroom pod. Parking lots, we've got a lot of parking lots that need to be either a new parking lot built, an old parking lot renovated, or a parking lot that just needs to have cracks filled and rejuvenated. So that's a lot of them all around our school district as well. And again, curriculum equipment. We get about $1.5 million a year from the state for textbooks and curriculum. We spend $4 million on textbooks. Not counting any equipment, not counting library media, all of that is in this type of budget. Without that, those things don't happen. Or we have to cut salaries or cut positions to make those things happen. So instructional equipment, child nutrition equipment, and operational equipment and vehicles for operations. HVAC, a lot of our older schools, Sequoia, Russell Doherty, and And Santa Fe is going on 25 to 28 years on some of the units, and they are needing to be replaced. That's a $5 million expense. Purchase land. Our latest demographic study that was associated with our redistricting showed several things. One, this area is growing. Southwest is growing too, around the apartments and all. We have 11,300 apartment units in our district. Now that's the bad news, or not bad news, but that's the fact. The good news is that we only have 1,900 kids associated with all those units. So we don't have a lot of kids associated with apartments yet. We will at some time in this school district in 10, 20 years as those apartments evolve or devolve, as some people would say. They just change who lives in them. So we're going to need more land for new schools. There's not a school between Frontier. You can drop off Washington Irving, but I'm concerned about Frontier to John Ross and everything that's going in between there. So that's a possibility of a school site. Also north of Cross Timbers in Logan County is a possibility. And then the district at some point is going to have to purchase some more land east of I-35 for another elementary. North High School, renovating it. It's been renovated and updated from one end to the other, except for the large gym. And that when you start getting gyms that are 40 and 45 years old, they do need updating, especially in the locker rooms. Memorial, some classrooms for the freshman academy, updating their old industrial arts facility, which hasn't been changed since the 70s. Roofing at some schools, Russell Doherty and Santa Fe, a new media center at Cross Timbers. You all are very fortunate. Cross Timbers has 1,100 kids, and their media center is about a half to two-thirds the size of yours. So we're going to have to increase the size of it, build a new media center. We're going to take the old media center and turn it into 3 or 4 classrooms. Classroom furnishings, you're fairly in good shape here. We have some schools where the furniture is older than the parents who go to that school, whose kids go to that school. So we've got to do some replacement. And then playgrounds. I think this is an area that would benefit Frontier. We still have needs. Whether it's a fence or a walking path or it's another piece of equipment or it's impact material, those are the things we're going to be focusing on with every elementary in this bond issue. Our FFA facility, some of you guys may not know, we have an ag program in Edmond. And not only do we have an ag program, it's the best in the state and the top 5 in the nation out of 20,000 plus FFA chapters and ag programs. They've outgrown their facility. We're going to have to build a new ag engineering mechanics building. School security, just always upgrading, replacing old equipment. Marquees and directional signage. We've got a lot of old marquees, and you all are fortunate. You've got new ones, but there's some schools who we still have some from the 70s. They're old. Parents can't replace those anymore. They're just too darn expensive. You can get to $30,000 to $50,000 replacing one, depending on what type you get. And that's just too much for parents to bear. So a couple of things that the district has taken off parents and booster clubs is playground equipment and we're going to start taking the marquees off as well. Flooring, replacing flooring at Ida Freeman, Westfield, and Centennial. Westfield will be 15 years old next year. That's kind of amazing, 15 years old. It doesn't seem like that long ago that we were building it, securing the land, and getting it built. But 15 years out of carpet's pretty good. So we'll be replacing their carpet, and then the next summer we'll be replacing Centennial's, which was built the year after. Gym flooring, we've got some old gym floors that are going to be replaced at Chisholm, Ida Freeman, Cross Timbers, and John Ross. And then we have our transportation. So that's essentially what we've got. We don't have any gyms, we don't have any stadiums, we don't have anything like that essentially this year. We render everything ahead of time and sort of do pre-planning so we have good budgets. This is Memorial's Freshman Academy edition on the end of their Freshman Academy. And we always just try to plan it out. That way we know about what it's going to cost us. Their wood shop that needs to be updated. At Santa Fe, where kids from this school will go. Right now, Santa Fe is our largest high school in the school district. Now, when we redistrict secondary a few years ago, it's done exactly what we thought it would do. North High School would be over 3,000 kids right now, and just bursting at the seams. So North went down, Santa Fe has grown naturally, and Memorial has gone up. They're within 150 kids of each other now. And that's one of the things we wanted. We wanted equity, and so no school got too big or too small. This is on the west side of the building. The middle 6 classrooms were already built a few years ago. These are just 3 classrooms on each side of that. North's gym, updating it. Scissortail, does everyone know where Scissortail is? Epworth Retirement Village, back behind it. It's going to be sort of a urban, suburban type school because it's going to be surrounded by businesses, Epworth, some apartments and townhouses. So it's going to feed those existing apartments and neighborhoods that are around it as well. So it started off a little slower, only with 2 classroom pods, and this will be the 3rd pod, and it may stay that way for a while. Redbud, Edmond's first school east of I-35, is out there. It will open this August. But it needs a new pod here in 2 years. Cross Timbers, classroom media center on the very northwest corner of the school. Again, just reiterating our technology needs, copiers, computers, software. We can pay for licenses out of the bond funds. Wireless networking, technology support services all come out of this bond fund. And then our school improvements, again, just reminding everyone, we're talking about restrooms if they need updated, desk, chairs, cabinets, lights, doors, flooring, paint, whatever they need to bring that classroom up to as close as like what you all have. Then our FFA facilities. So in summary, technology, equipment, textbooks, classroom furnishings, roofing, heat and air, playgrounds, parking, flooring, security equipment, our additions and our renovations and new school land, transportation, no planned tax increase, election on May 11th, 7 to 7, regular polling place, and just a reminder, it takes 60% to pass. So if a politician said, I got 50%, that's a landslide, that's not even what we have to have in this. It's 60%. For every no vote, it takes 2 people voting yes to kind of counteract it. What we're asking people to do is just consider the projects, get out and vote. We're asking teachers to consider the projects, get out and vote, get your family. This affects you all as much as it does kids and your ability to have what you need to teach. So, are there any questions? I will say, just remember, this is a 1-year plan. We have a 5-year bond plan where we are identifying different projects every year. There will be another elementary in there at some point. There'll be another middle school, and there will be a high school, I would say, in the next 7 to 10 years out east. Are there any questions online? Oh, that question in the back.
So if you live in Oklahoma City but don't have a child that attends an Edmond school, you can't vote?
Okay, what does your tax statement say? You know, where you get this little green statement every year that says where my taxes go, and it's like Francis Tuttle. It'll say Oklahoma City or Edmond, but then it comes down to what school district, and it'll say Oklahoma City schools or Edmond schools. You know, if it says Edmond schools, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you.
And that's confusing. We deal with this on this side of town a lot. People don't think they can vote, but you know, you're just as much as Edmond as anybody else.
Thank you.
All right, is anything online or?
No questions online.
All right. Well, I know you've got business to perform today. I appreciate your time very much. Teachers, thank you so much for what you do. It's been an unusual year, to say the least, and I know that you've been working hard all year long. I appreciate that. We've been there with you about every step of the way, and ready for a nice summer break and then able to come back next year. People ask me, what are we going to be next year? And I just say, unless we're in a zombie apocalypse or something like that, we will be 5 days a week next year. There's no doubt about it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Town. And now we will do the principal's report with Dr. Miller.
I am going to take my mask off just because I have a lot of hot air going on. Thank you, Mr. Town. We appreciate you being here so much. And yes, I get a lot of people that walk into my building for the first time or our building for the first time, and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And it is in great part to our bond issues and how our parents get out and vote. And I know our parents want what's best for our kids. And I'm incredibly excited to hear that our bond issue will now pay for some of our playground and some of those things. And Robin Wagner, our PTO president, couldn't be here today, but I know you're out there cheering right now, Robin, because those are some of the things that we know are high priority. One of the things that I was talking to my assistant principal, Amanda Blomberg, about was our playground is quite a distance away from our main school, and I'm assuming they did that for growth. They didn't ask me, or we might have had it right behind, which is a little bit more access friendly for our children. But one of the things that we would like to see from this bond issue is that they fence that piece in. And so there's some things over there, and there's a field, and there's not a whole lot over there on that side of our building, but a fence would be greatly appreciated. So I think that's one of the things that they're going to target for us, particularly on the bond issue. And so that's money that the district's going to put into that doesn't come out of our PTO, which all is obviously funded by our parents. So we're really excited about that. The signage, obviously we have new signage, so in the future, maybe if they let us light up signs or something like that, then that might be helpful to us, but I'm excited about the playground equipment, because truly, as we're looking at things, sometimes it's a big hit, and we do, we add a swing here, or we add a slide there. This year, PTO added fencing around our tot lot to give them an extended area to play, which was very much appreciated, but that was a good chunk of money, and it was just fencing, so I'm really excited about that. Some of the things that I just wanted to talk about today, I have a couple lists, and I won't bore you with all of it, but just the testing season is upon us. Good news on that. The State Department, while they say, yes, we do have to have testing, and we will, and our teachers are doing a remarkable job about really making the most of every single minute that they're in the classroom and hitting and targeting skills needed based on state standards for our kids to be ready for those. Our third grade do have to take their test sooner than the 4th and 5th because we want their reading scores back sooner. So on our Facebook page, and we'll push out into some more our testing schedule, so parents will know that. Also, one of the things that the State Department did this year for us is that we have to have a monitor for a grade level. So one monitor, and we're fortunate in that all of our grade levels are in pods now. So our third grade pod, we just have to have an adult as a monitor signed in and trained, somebody in the building, to actually sit in the pod. So if there's any reason that an extra person might be needed, the teacher doesn't have to go to the classroom. So we will only be testing one grade level at a time. So that's also another bonus to the monitors for this year. Whereas in the past, we've tested multiple grade levels at a time and had to have upwards of 23, 24, 25 monitors at any given time. So that has been a bonus for us. So on Monday night, or Monday afternoon, we have a pre-enrollment push out that our site did. The whole district did, actually. What we're trying to figure out is, with so many going off to either Epic or virtual Edmond, we're trying to get a count of who all is going to come back to us, and I hope all of you do. We like our kiddos here. That's our face-to-face is our favorite way to do this. But they pushed out the first phase of our pre-enrollment, and that night, anyone who had submitted their pre-enrollment and completed it by midnight got to be in a drawing. And so we do have a name for the drawing. I think the person knows this, but the person that won is actually Elizabeth Montgomery, and I think she has a first grader, Miss Cook's class. So congratulations. She won a $50 gift card to Amazon that went into a drawing. So hopefully you have gotten that, Elizabeth. And Elizabeth, feel free to come and volunteer for PTO because we're looking for PTO volunteers right now. Additionally, our goal is to have at least 95% on that pre-enrollment completed by April 8th. Is that the right deadline? April 8th. So April 8th, if we have 95% of our student body have that pre-enrollment completed and turned in, our students will get a PJ Day and popsicle party everyone in the building. We kind of cushion that 5% because some people may be out of town, that gets information. So 95% will have a popsicle party and PJs. So that will be fun for our kiddos. Many of our teachers we have a few out today because they had shots yesterday. And so I appreciate all of those teachers who are getting their shots. My second one is on Friday. We'll see how I do Saturday. Many of my teachers are coming back. Or not coming back actually because the second shot's kind of a doozy, but I do appreciate them going through that to make sure that we can all get back like Mr. Town said 5 days a week. We are excited about that. One thing, I'm kind of sandwiching the good with the bad, so that was all kind of good. I've gotten lots and lots of emails lately about our traffic. And we're in growing pains only because what we're facing right now in our car lines and pickup and drop off is something that we would have faced in August. It's been very convenient and drop off and pick up, very, very quick, not had to worry about not turning left or lines backing up until we all came back. And we have 767 kids that are either being picked up, dropped off, something. I mean, the bus is always an option for every student in Frontier area and boundaries. And I know it's a lot, so you can put your kiddo on the bus, and they're trying to find more buses to make sure that they're spread out as much as possible. But have patience with us as we work through all the kinks on that. I know we have a set of staff that does this every single day, and they've done it in the past, and they've committed their time, whether they're late or whatever, to trying to make sure we move this along as quickly as possible. In the morning, the best thing I can tell parents is shoes on, backpacks on, ready to get out of the car. If there's unbuckling that has to do, I think there's an unbuckle zone. Or at the end, if there's buckling, buckle them up at the buckle zone. Just things that so we can load or unload cars quickly. Turning left out of here, if we do that, it backs up the traffic all on Penn and it just slows our process down. So I thank you, parents who have stood out there to help us make sure everyone's turning right. So with that being said, part of the traffic issue, I think we have a question. Maybe?
Oh, finish your thought, and then we have a traffic question.
You're going to with the question, and I think you're about to answer it.
Okay, so one of the problems that we're having because our school time changed, where we were out and done, and Katie, you might be able to help me with this, but when we were out and done last year with our different earlier time, our typical get done time was about 3:50 every day. This year, because we don't get out till 3:50, our get done time is about 4:20 to 4:30. Well, that kind of impedes we get in this line of traffic on Covell over here in Penn, and the problem with that is Western is closed. So we've got more traffic on Penn because we're letting out later, and it's kind of hitting some going home traffic. And we also have Western traffic that is traveling up and down Penn that we didn't have last year. So it is a bit of a conundrum, but we're going to work through those growing pains. I've had people ask me, can you not have two loops going? And the reason we don't is because on the backside are our buses. We dismiss our pre-K early at 3:20 on the backside. Then our buses come through that, and they have to have a clear loop. Going through Acts 2 is not an option, not because they're not gracious. They have been more than gracious and done more than we can possibly thank them for. But that's not an option because they have things going on there that we can't impede their traffic flow either. And then on this other end of the building, we have some of our special needs friends that get picked up, and we can't account for them darting out, so we don't want any traffic flowing through that area as well. And then this side, it is fenced off for our playground, so there's no way, even if we open this end for dismissal or drop off, the cars would have a place to go. So our only option is the front for our car line drop off and pickup. It was brought to my attention that perhaps we could go behind Heartland and then alleviate off Penn. The line's still going to be there, but it does alleviate off of Penn. However, the problem with that is in the afternoon particularly, which is when we tend to have most of the problems on our car line, is that all of their sports activities are behind their school right in that line. So either they're dropping off for baseball, tennis, track, something along those lines, and those kids are coming back and forth across that parking lot right where we would be driving through. So that's not safe either. So ultimately, this is our option. It's worked for 6 years. This year's just a little bit of a transition just because we haven't done it all year, and I know it was really convenient to only get in the line of cars of 400, but be patient with us. Our friends inside are learning our routines as well and moving quickly. Our teachers are doing a great job of having backpacks on and ready to go. So have a little more patience. We do have, typically at the beginning of the year, there's a period of time where we have to kind of get through it. And I see my parents nodding their head. This is kind of what we do. But if there's anything that we can do to make it move faster, smoother, but ultimately the safest we can go, we will definitely look at that and consider that and have conversations about that. Was there a question, Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, Joel Smith is asking about the during the pre-K pickup, there's a school light.
Okay, so I'm gonna need some help on this one, friends. Because I spoke to Chad Brown, who is our inner city officer who comes frequently, every day really, and he just checks on us, and he's my source of communication when I have a question about traffic or safety or something like that. So our afternoon pre-K picks up at 3:20, and part of the problem is our school zone lights don't come on until about 3:45. And when they are leaving out, our turning lane doesn't extend on past our north drive. For those of you who are here can maybe visualize because you can kind of see it. But so when they're turning right out after they pick up a pre-K friend, then the cars are flying through at 45 miles an hour because the traffic zone lights are not on. So they really can't turn left because they can't see traffic. So it's hard for them to turn right because they can't see around the traffic lined up for pre-K. And so that's our only place that we have to safely have pickup for pre-K. So in a vein to try and solve that problem, I reached out to the traffic engineers of the city of Edmond and asked them very kindly and emphatically if they could possibly turn our traffic lights on earlier, 3:20, to our end time to about 4:20, 4:30. And in the morning, I realized that our lights aren't coming on until 9, which we start drop off at 8:50. And I also asked him about that. And he probably called me about 3 or 4 times back and forth asking me questions. Part of our problem is, for those of you who don't know, Penn is a dividing line between Oklahoma City and Edmond. So if you're heading northbound on Penn, you're in Edmond city limits, and Edmond police officers police that area or control that area. On the west side of Penn, heading south, is Oklahoma City traffic. So if you're on the west, or let's say you're on the east side, and Oklahoma City policemen stop you, you're in Edmond city limits, just saying. Yeah, no, not gonna lie, that was my first introduction to Mr. Brown whenever I came to Frontier for the first time. He was very helpful to me in understanding that. So, in saying that, we have 2 school zone lights, one heading south, one heading north. Guess which side the light heading south is on? Oklahoma City. Guess which side the light heading north is on? Edmond. So the traffic person I talked to, he said, oh, that's an Oklahoma City thing. When I explained this to him, he goes, oh, well, let me call you right back. We called me right back, and he said, we only give you 20 minutes on either end of your dismissal time. We can't help you. So that was yesterday. I said, well, I have many parents who are frustrated by this, plus our traffic is just not great. I said, once I relayed to them, this is your answer, this may not go well for you, so just saying. I have not had a chance to talk to Mr. Brown, Officer Brown, again since that phone call, but I'm not done. I'm still going to fight the fight to see if we can get at least the lights done on sooner. And one of the things that was interesting that he said to me is he said the school zone lights aren't on to slow down traffic for cars. It's to slow down traffic for kids walking back and forth from school. And I said, we don't have kids that walk back and forth from school. He said, oh, let me call you back. And he hadn't called me back yet. So I know the traffic is frustrating. We just have a lot of things that are hitting us right now. And then couple that with the Heartland, who they've been amazing, with the construction south of us. So it's a little bit hard to see around that too, although I do feel like that's fairly smooth. And I appreciate, again, like the friends who are out at the street making sure things are going, but they're not really going to go out and stop a whole line of traffic for you to get to turn them because they value their life. Okay, any other questions about that, Mr. Fletcher? So we're working on it as the best I can tell you. It will get better. Our kids are getting faster. They're walking with purpose in the hall. Get their shoes and backpacks on them in the car when they're dropping off. We're still doing all our same procedures when they're coming in, out the front, hand and sanitizing, going into the classroom, greeting the teachers, getting their temps, and all those kinds of things. So we're still doing all those fun things as well. Any questions on that lovely topic? Okay. Let's see. PTO volunteers, I think you'll speak to this in just a little bit, but we are needing some friends, and I know we have a lot of parents that are so willing to volunteer. This year has been an odd year. We're moving forward. We're looking for the great opportunity in the day when we can come back and we can have programs, and our hope is that that is next year to 5 days. We are looking for volunteers to serve on our board. We're looking for volunteers to serve on committees. And so those are just some of the things I know Michelle will be talking about. But those who have come to help this year, they've been pretty much scripted volunteers, meaning that we knew exactly where they were going to be, what they were going to do. They still had to follow the guidelines and protocols of coming in the building and being tracked so that we could contact trace if we had to do that piece. So we're really hopeful that today we'll get to nominate or at least bring up some people that are slated for some of our PTO boards. We're looking forward to next year where we will get to have more of a normal year, and again, we do need help. So reach out either on Facebook page, PTO, me, PTO president, or any of the board. There's a few that are out there that I've just talked to, and they said, oh, I'll be willing to do that. So I appreciate all of you who have volunteered to do that. We will be sending out a parent-family survey for our PTO to see if there's any way that we can either help, increase, grow, get your thoughts and ideas, and so that will come back once we push that out sometime in the next week or so, to just kind of get your thoughts as a whole Frontier PTO parent support base and what we can do to help you next year understand what we're doing. This year I did just kind of want to say thank you to PTO for the many things that you have funded. We funded the fence, the tot lot fence, and my pre-K friends are here, and they've made the most of that. We were able to get 2 classrooms out there at a time because one stayed on the interior, on the tot lot, on the outside. They paid for, I can't remember her last name, we call her Melissa, and she's one that has done some, Hendricks, Melissa Hendricks, has come in and she has painted on many of our patios and out on the playground and our tot lot many amazing things for our kiddos to do. So if we're on indoor recess, sometimes they can go to the patios and they can do sensory. And out on our playground, there's a whole area, and our kids absolutely love it. They use it every day. We have a rainbow lineup, so if you're going down and when we have our family fun night and all back together, you can see all some of these fun things that we've done. But we think, and PTO has paid for a lot of what Melissa has done in that. They've purchased music instruments, PPE stuff, masks, shields, benches and picnic tables for outdoor seating. So additionally, on our patios, they've added picnic tables so our teachers can go out and have small groups outside where it's a little bit more safe and they can mask down. And I know 4th grade has a really cool map of the United States, so when they're learning states and capitals, they can go out there and they have a actual multi-sensory opportunity to get on the state inside the United States. So those are some of the things that PTO has really done for us this year. So I thank you for that, and hopefully with continued support for our PTO, we'll be able to add a lot more of these things where we can increase our outside learning opportunities. I thank you for all the volunteers that have come in this year, and as for that, we have a lot of things coming up: teacher appreciation, library appreciation, secretaries. We have a virtual pre-K night coming up on May 11th. 5th grade celebration, we will get to do that this year, which we didn't get to do last year. So I know several 5th grade moms are working on that, so more details will come on that about what our 5th grade and how we will handle that safely. towards the end of the year. As far as families coming for an end of the year activity, that's still kind of big question marks depending on what the district guides me to allow. So as we move forward in the next few general board meetings, maybe some more information will come along about that. Our last day of school is May 28th. And let's see, anything else? I think that's the highlights of my notes, which were a lot, but we haven't had an opportunity to meet this year. And so I just kind of wanted to reflect on the school year. It's been a great school year. It's been a very different school year as my first year as principal, but I appreciate all the amazing support I've gotten and for our kiddos getting through that. Do you guys have any questions for me or anybody online have a question for me? All right, hopefully you all are enjoying the s'mores that I put out and mostly the videos. I mean, I anticipate, anxiously await that video because I know I'm going to see something so darling. And Mr. Fletcher, our teachers all input those pictures in. He draws those pictures out and he does the whole piece on that. So he's very valuable to getting those videos out to parents. And anything else, you just let me know, shoot me an email, and I will do my best to answer questions. I'll turn it back over to Michelle Saucier for the rest of our board meeting. Thank you.
Since she talked about most of my things, we're just, so what she said, plus, we will have the parent survey go out, and it's going to be long and possibly a little boring, but it's going to answer all of our questions to help parents more, I guess you could say. And then fundraising, we are not doing any more fundraising this year because parents had enough. But we will ask for donations for certain things here and there. And that's all, because she talked about everything else. And if you haven't signed in, can you sign in on your way out? And now I will call Tiffany up, because today is also the day that we are going to call out our slate for next year.
I'm presenting the slate for next year's board. For president, we have Robin Wagner. For vice president, Melissa Fletcher. VP of fundraising is still open. VP of family events, Amy Lewis. Secretary, Elizabeth Miranda. Treasurer, Michelle Saucier. Treasurer-elect is still open. Parliamentarian, Stephanie Johnson. And would anyone like to add their name to this list? Since no one has added their name, the vote will be at the next general meeting on April 28th.
Thank you, Tiffany. And about the open positions for treasurer-elect, I'm currently treasurer, so next year is my last year, so we will need a treasurer to replace me. It's not as bad as everybody thinks. Is there any other questions for me? Online, anyone?
The next PTO meeting being the same format, in-house and online. Okay. That would be my preference.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. So our next meeting will be basically the same. It'll be April 28th, and that's when we're going to vote on this slate that Tiffany will present again. And